you die twice in this lifetime. Once whenever you physically leave, and then the last time your name is spoken.
Emily, being the oldest, growing up with Trevor and Levi, she was a caretaker. She was always watching out for everybody else, and she was a fun-loving kid growing up, but always the caretaker, always looking out for everyone. And
very selfless, very selfless.
And I think that extended well beyond our own brothers that went out into the cousins, and which were quite a few of them.
Yes, she wasn't the oldest, but she would rally everybody. She was like the organizer. She was an agitator. She was a silent agitator. She would be teasing her brother under the table, but she would look like nothing's going on. So a lot of times he would get in trouble and she wouldn't.
If we all believe that we're God's children, and that she was God's daughter, we knew that when it was time for her to go home, she was going with her true father.
Sara loved life. She really did live it to the fullest. That was her 23rd year that she died in, and so she listed 23 things she intended to accomplish that year. And by her death on March 23rd, she had already accomplished 8 of those 23. Some of the things she had done, and not necessarily that year, were skydiving. She learned to ride a motorcycle. She bought one, and she went to Washington, D.C. and rode with Rolling Thunder, the national event for veterans. One of the highlights perhaps was when she climbed on Mount Wall, which is an 18,000-foot mountain in China, where she went out on the cliffs where approximately 100 and some people die there every year. It's considered the most dangerous hike on earth. And she did say, she was fearless, but she did say that was the one time she was actually afraid. That was Sara, just full of life, loving people and helping people.
Hi, I am Terry Leyland.
And I'm Hank Leyland, and we are Emily's parents.
Hi, I'm Margaret Kasunic.
Hi, I'm Todd Kasunic, and Sara was our daughter.
I think one of mine towards her, towards probably the last year of her life, she was on such heavy steroids, so she couldn't sleep. And at that time, Levi was a senior. So she would be in a scooter because of different things that the steroids had done to her. And they would be flying up and down the hallway, bouncing off of the woodwork. And she's like, I'm gonna have to totally redo this house once I'm out of here. But they would put on like fashion shows. Okay, what are you gonna wear to school tomorrow? What are you gonna, but that was, and then I'd be yelling, you both have to get up early in the morning, like get to bed.
Morgan Rosardi, the director of Phi Theta Kappa, said, quote, when Sara contacted me about making a donation to PTK so that other students could have the same experience she did, I was floored. This shows the type of person she was: kind, selfless, thoughtful, giving. 4 students benefited from her scholarship.
We would see the same thing. We could be in a crowded room, something over here might be funny that happened, and then I'd look at her. It was just those moments of just recognizing the same thing. And
You two were very similar sense of
our
humor.
humor, I guess. That
Yes.
My favorite memory of Sara is sitting at the kitchen table, just having tea with her, and her telling me of her day, but she can't tell me of because she's a nurse. And then just the things of her life and laughing about them, or just having tea in the morning with her.
As far as what I remember about Sara was just how warm she could be, and her love of reading, her love of travel. She had been to England, France, Spain, Italy, Croatia, where she stayed with cousins that she'd been communicating with online. She went to China, spent over a month there with us, and then we went from China. Well, in China she walked the Great Wall. When we were in Thailand, she got in a pond at an elephant preserve that we went to help wash elephants, which is basically throwing mud on them and water on them. She also talked me into going to a kickboxing match with her. And her mother knew better and stayed back at the room, which was, she wouldn't have lasted 2 minutes there. It was so bloody and violent, and Sara just loved it.
Emily's greatest gift was her ability to hear you. She would listen.
That as well.
She was a great listener, and she could sit back in a group. She was also
She was very quiet,
very silent. She was, in a big, large family that we have, she was always kind of in the background, but she was always listening. And she was a great gift giver because she
remembered.
She
would
remembered.
listen and remember.
Yes. So I would say that's probably the greatest gift that she.
When Sara passed, Nick Newpower, the president of BC3, sent a letter out to the entire campus community, professors and students alike. And I want to quote a little bit of what he said here. What Nick said: "It is rare that in a life of only 23 years, a person can touch so many individuals and leave a legacy among family, friends, and colleagues." Sara wanted to pay it forward, and she called BC3 and said she wanted to start a scholarship because she wanted others to experience what she experienced at the national convention. It meant that much to her. And so she created a scholarship where she paid for the registration fees for 4 students. 1 month before her passing, in a phone call to us, she told us that when she was at BC3, she noticed that there were nursing students who were struggling really hard financially. And so she was going to start another scholarship to benefit needy students in the nursing program.
We found out, you hear somebody has leukemia, there is so many different levels of leukemia, different types, and she was diagnosed with one that was very much like towards senior citizen age, that they were very surprised, and her mutation was so
unique to her. Late in 2010, she was
couple months,
feeling just
maybe
not feeling
months,
right.
always tired.
And but she was playing flag football with her brothers and some friends, and at one point she had a concussion. I think
she was getting ringing in her ears.
We believe there's some lingering effects of that, and then finally she was able to get in to see a doctor in January of 2011, and that's when they diagnosed her with.
Yeah, and Dr. Raptis was absolutely amazing down at Hillman, and he said that her mutation was so rare they could have named it after her. It is amazing, like you don't realize. First of all, you can't work because you're taking care of them. So just the day-to-day, we never left her alone. So somebody was sleeping there, and I had a blow-up air mattress, and that we would lay it on the floor and sleep on the floor in her room. And if it wasn't for myself and her future mother-in-law, Marta, we would take turns only because we weren't working at the time. Hank was trying to work, spend time with her, also be home for our son who was a senior. But, we would get up in the morning down there and she would have her, all the tests to see what treatment she needed through the day. And then if it was a good day, we could walk outside, or I would wheel her outside depending on, how she was feeling that day. But I think the longest time, she was in the hospital nonstop, 4 months was her longest stint. And she always said, if I hit the lottery, I'm putting a patio on the top of this building so that patients can get outside and get some air. And they actually have that now over at the Mario Lemieux Center. He put a little putting range and a little sun porch that you can sit out there. So when she was as an outpatient, we could get her treatments, and then we could go sit outside and just feel a little normal, I guess, through the day. But when she was not admitted, we got up every morning and we drove to Pittsburgh every day. And she had to be, because her doctor was very gracious. At that time, there was 1 hour distance you could go from the hospital. And we were just a little bit over that, but he knew she was getting taken care of. And for their mental state, he knew she needed to go home. And he also knew her time was limited.
She handled things. She internalized
A lot,
some things,
yes.
but never let too much show on the outside. But she went about her day to day.
Yeah. And she had her fiance Josh Reynolds was a wonderful support for her and his whole family.
My thoughts on how this affects a family, and obviously when it's for me as a father, as the protector, and not to be able to protect your children from something such as leukemia is tough. But for both of us, but in my opinion, it was a tough spot. To see what she went through and how well she handled it, I was amazed and astonished at her strength and her courage.
And the level of pain that she was able to power through.
Yeah. But for us as a family, I think it kind of, we had to, kind of do different paths. We all wanted to be with her, but it wasn't a reality. We just couldn't.
We had to divide and conquer.
We had for Levi to be at home. So, his senior year, special time for him. So there's all these, and having a big family we did, everybody jumped in where they could. They took, they took our place at certain different times when we couldn't be there.
I'm thankful that I was her mother for 31 years.
We got a call at 7:30 that Saturday morning, March 23rd, from our son Nicholas, our oldest son, and I took the call, and he said, "Go get Mom. It's urgent." And I could tell by the tone in his voice, so I went directly to her. She was still in bed, and he told us that Sara was in a very bad accident and that she was on life support. She was at the University of Tennessee Medical Center, and we went in, and it was the worst day of our lives without a doubt. And we talked to her, even though, because they say people in her condition can hear, she couldn't move at all. But we knew she was alive because when they told us that, and the other time, one time she blinked her eye or something, even though it was closed. We prayed over her a lot. We were there for, actually we didn't leave there till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Do you remember? 1 or 2 in the morning. After a while, after a few hours, a nurse came in to see us. she was from the organ donor center, and said that we have it that Sara was an organ donor, which she was, and she needed our consent, though, even at that, for her to be an organ donor. And we were all seated around a huge table, went around the table, and everyone agreed, except me at first. And I said I really wanted to be there holding her one hand and her mother holding her other hand when she took her last breath. But my family said that this was Sara's wish. We need to honor the wish. So I agreed, and it was a very hard thing to do, but I did agree. And so that meant that her body would be down there in the next few days. In fact, she didn't arrive to Martin's funeral home until Wednesday night. They had to fly her to Atlanta, her body to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta up to Pittsburgh.
There would be a 10 o'clock mass at the university, and through all of our grief, we somehow got there. And it was there, I think, some healing, just some kind of, maybe a supportive hand was put around us, like, you're not alone.
Well, the bishop was presiding. We think it was confirmation, if we remember correctly. But instead of talking about the confirmation, he talked about us most of the time, which kind of flattened us, I should say, because
we came in the back and sat in the back.
We were very back in
a
church,
chair.
and he pointed us out to everybody and talked to us, which we really appreciated. There were over 30 people that benefited as a result of Sara's donation, and 5 of them actually received the gift of life. 5, they said, probably would not be here if it weren't for her. They would not give us names or anything. I did find out that one was a 10-year-old girl from Michigan who received her heart. Another one was a 10-year-old, I think, boy from Tennessee who received her liver. There's a 37-year-old man who received her set of lungs. A 45-year-old man received her left kidney, and a 55-year-old man received her right kidney. Near the end of September of 2021, Margaret got a phone call. I was out on a tractor mowing the field, and she said, motioned me to come in, and so I jumped off the tractor. She said, you gotta listen to this call. Well, it was a woman from the Organ Donor Center in Tennessee. Her name was Michelle, and she was new at the job, and she was going through the files, and she found a letter that was dated November 3rd of 2019 from a gentleman named L. Schneider. And so I received a letter from L. They sent me the letter from L and read it. It was a beautiful letter in which first he expressed his deepest sympathy, and then he expressed his gratitude, how he got his life back as a result, because he had been on renal dialysis for 25 years. And believe it or not, he still went to work the better part of the time. His wife would hook him up at 7 in the evening every night, and then unhook him in the morning so he could go to work and have supper and spend a little time with family. And that was his life for years. And he exhausted all other possibilities, and he's pretty close to totally giving up when he got this phone call from Tennessee. And so I wrote L a letter. It was dated, he wrote me, I got the copy of the letter, and I wrote him a letter on October 3rd of 21. And the donor center said that they would need our permission and they would need his permission to share names, addresses, or whatever. And we both immediately agreed. And then we got a phone call from him. I think that's how it went. I can't remember quite when, we started talking, and we became very good friends.
Usually we had a dog some time ago, and we would know when someone arrived. That day, our dog has since died. They were at our kitchen door before we knew they were there. And that's not the way I thought we'd meet. I thought it'd be, we'd see them coming up the walk, we'd know they. So they knocked on the door, and I was in the kitchen cutting strawberries. And so we met in our porch, which of all places I would not have imagined. So nothing goes as planned, it's just heart-wrenching. Just, you know, hugging and crying and knowing that part of Sara was that close within him made the hug special.
I mean, when Father Kevin approached us and said, what do you think,
about it,
this?
Billy?
And we'll do a 5K, be an evening event. It'll be...
I'm not a runner. I'm a dancer. I do not run.
And that's why we take care of the food stand.
That's what we're
The picture in the Butler Eagle that, I don't know if it's Kirsten, so it's just, everybody's just eager to go, and it's young, it's old. It's Sister Nancy signing up to be the first one on the list.
To have the opportunity to honor Emily and Sara in this way is a beautiful way.
And to help families with the scholarship.
To Butler Catholic.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing thing. And to be in the third year and
to continue growing.
To grow the way it's growing is pretty exciting. But I think the one thing that would leave people with this fear of dealing with, you can't fear something in the future
that is unknown.
Don't waste your time with that. But once it's upon you, you do know this. You're not alone.
And you got to enjoy every day you're here. Easier said than done. You know, sometimes you just have to power through and don't let anybody else take your joy. You got to find your joy every day.